Crow, his main issue with this story is the fact that the Ace Queen did not know or let them know that she was asexual.
Which would have been fine had she told us ahead of time, because we would have known that and we could have built from there. But no, unfortunately, she kept telling us, please keep asking for sex, because one day I will say yes. And that's where the train wreck of the relationship really started, was because she didn't want to accept herself as Ace, and she kept thinking that one day a miracle would happen and she would have desire. She thought she was broken. She totally wasn't broken. She was just Ace. There was nothing wrong with that. And the reason why I call her Ace Queen is because, well, yeah, the obvious fallout that happened as a result of her not being wholly honest with us or herself.
Again, communication.
Right. Well, I mean, she didn't have it to communicate because she wasn't willing to take the introspective step and understand her own sexuality, which was not there, which was fine. She's a wonderful person. It's just she kept saying that she would eventually, and I kept asking, like, do you think it would be in the next 3 months, 6 months? She's like, oh yeah, absolutely. And
but
8 months later,
but wait a sec. I have to say one thing about that.
Sure.
So with X,
go ahead.
So my sex drive is lower than, well, definitely X's. But I waited several months before I had sex with X because of the fact that I knew how she felt about it, how, sex meant to her. However, what sex meant to me was something completely different. What sex meant to me was an intimate connection with somebody.
You are very Demi.
I am totally Demi. I have to have that emotional connection with somebody before I have sex with them.
Absolutely.
She couldn't understand that.
So when are you and I? No.
I'm wondering the same. In case anybody was wondering.
I am not only Demi, but I am also straight.
God damn it!
He is. Jesus, help us.
Jesus fucking Christ. You're here. Can you... No?
The bishop, who is at work right now, is...
flogging himself?
Wait.
Accurate.
Wait. Just to stop the presses for a second.
Containers of cashews.
Did we just name your gorgeous Viking husband the bishop?
The bishop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The Viking bishop. He's practically Thor. Only hotter.
Yeah. I can't argue with that.
So clearly you're not completely straight.
No, I can appreciate the Vikingness of
the bishop.
He'll totally manhandle you if you just ask him.
He already manhandles me, and I don't have to ask him. He just picks me up. He has literally thrown me over his shoulder already. So
it's so adorable.
Listeners, you got to understand, most of the people in our household are vertically challenged.
Yeah.
So our feet touch the ground at the same height as everybody else's.
Some of us are less vertically challenged than others.
I think the tallest person in our house is one of the children, Mercury, and everybody else is quite a bit shorter than him.
Oh my God, quite a bit, by 5'9". Like, that's ridiculous. Whatever, I'm 5'1.5".
I'm 5'8". What are you?
I'm 5'8".
That's like 7.5 inches more taller than I am.
I'm kind of like 5'7 3/4".
What about
I'm not
you?
Really,
what is your name?
You can round it up to 8.
Jesus.
How
about you, Jesus?
I am 5 1/2 of an inch.
Sheesh.
We have to measure.
Smaller than me.
I am. My head's bigger though.
I thought
we're not talking about that.
I thought it wasn't about length. It was about girth. Wait.
It depends on who you're talking about.
What?
It's both.
Never mind.
What about girth?
It's both.
What?
Okay, so we brought Jesus on here to talk about also some of the crazy experiences that Jesus has gone through.
Yeah. So Ace Queen was...
we're going back
we're
to
going
that.
back to Ace Queen.
All right.
So Ace Queen was talking to me once about
Queen.
how X was extraordinarily and obnoxiously amorous at times. And she kept saying, well, hasn't she had enough? I've had my fingers up her. And then she stopped while making weird gestures with her fingers. And I had to remind her gently, Ace, that was 3.5 months ago. Just so you know, that's not the average for a new beloved in your life. That's probably not... It was just one of those things that it was she hadn't come to that conclusion for herself. She hadn't done all of the things that and truthfully, I don't know that at the time there was all that much available.
Has she yet?
I don't know. I've lost contact with her.
If you're ace, please. I mean, we know people that are ace, and that's cool. Like, I have no issues with, but just let people know ahead.
It's one of those things. There are people who are extremely demi or on the gray scale or ace that will argue that sexuality is not a need. It's fine if it's not for you. It's fine if it's not for you. But people's needs are something that is personal and intrinsic to them. So you can't go around saying, well, nobody needs sex. Well, it's great if you don't. Other people do.
Well, and it's not the fact that it's a need. It's more of a connection.
Says the demi. No, which is exactly my point. It's fine. It's one of those things that it's all very personal and it's all very intrinsic to yourself. And your needs are valid. Your needs are your needs.
But
your needs are your needs. So like you as a demi person your needs are valid, and they are exactly your desire and wants are valid for you.
Right.
And they should be respected as such. By the same token, that means necessarily that people who are on the other end of the spectrum, their needs to be are also valid and need to be respected as such as well.
If you a dum-dum, I'm sorry, I can't.
If you a dum-dum?
If you a dum-dum, I can't.
Oh, yes. In addition to being
demi,
demi,
he's... that be trippin'. We just can't. Right?
No, we just can't. No bitches that trip.
Yeah.
Unless you trip on something else. And
crazy is...
But even then...
Crazy is not attractive.
Right.
Yeah. As long as it's not meth, had my experience with it.
Don't be meth up.
So let's talk about some of the most crazy experiences we've had.
I haven't had any.
Crazy in a good way or crazy
Jesus
in a bad way?
Because I believe Jesus has probably had way more crazy experiences than we have.
Well, it's Jesus.
Jesus, right?
Jesus has had one poly experience.
And that's enough.
Well, yeah.
So you guys are asking me to dig up so much trauma.
Now, when you're asking this, are you asking crazy as in, wow, that was crazy, or crazy as in, that motherfucker is nuts?
Whatever
nuts.
Jesus deems that is her crazy experience.
Go ahead, Jesus.
Jesus is thinking. Jesus doesn't have the answer to this. She was off her freaking rocker.
She was recovering.
She was recovered meth addict, which that's, to me, it takes a really strong person to recover. So knowing her, or attempting to get to know her as much as possible, was quite the challenge to begin with. But the more I found out about her, the more I was like, oh, she's strong. But then the real person comes out and you start to wonder, what the hell was I thinking?
The more her closest friends were like, what the fuck were you thinking?
So, but here's something real quick. Jesus is working on a degree.
I'm working on 2 different degrees.
Okay, so you're even better than everybody else. I'm so sorry.
Damn peasants.
God. As you look down at us, what degrees are you working on?
I'm working on a bachelor's in finance and a bachelor's in computer science with a focus in software engineering.
Wow.
This needs to go toward the beginning when we introduce her.
No.
However, I was doing a bachelor's in psychology, and I'm well-versed in psychological disorders.
Not just any psychological disorders, abnormal.
Yeah, abnormal psychological disorders. And she had an abnormal psychological order. X had an abnormal psychological disorder. It tends to run rampant in the poly community, if you were to ask me.
Go figure. Yeah. Don't do drugs.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs, kids.
No, meth will melt your brain. And especially if you already... Oh, don't get me started on the teeth. And see, I thought I was being super, not shallow by being like, yeah, it's okay. She wears dentures. And I look back and I'm like, oh, God, what did you do to yourself?
Dentures aren't necessarily a bad thing, because some people have, seizures and things like that kind of disorder.
When it comes to meth and you have dentures because of meth, if you learned from your lesson, fantastic. I completely 1000% support recovery, but there's a difference between being recovered and just having complete and total drug residue brain.
Well, then.
Just to be honest.
Yeah, hey.
No, for real, though. I'm trying to think of an actual for real thing that happened. But seriously, whenever traumatic things happen to you, especially whenever it's towards somebody that you think that you love, you gotta bury that. You're like, oh, I don't think I want to.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a story. I got all dressed up in my cut-up Joan Jett t-shirt and my...
Oh, I love that shirt.
And my...
God, she's so hot in it.
What are they called?
Fishnets.
Fishnets.
Bam!
I got dressed
Jesus
all
knows.
up in my fishnets, in a skirt, and my Joan Jett shirt with a fucking tank top, and I went out to meet this fucking bitch that be trippin'.
But she was a hot bitch.
She was, and supposedly her husband agreed.
Supposedly.
And her husband was
Again,
amazing and awesome.
supposedly.
Big.
And on board with stuff.
Big red flag.
And this was like, okay, so I started talking to this dude that was like supposedly amazing and agreed with everything I had to say, which was like great and stuff. All at that time. But then I went out and met with this girl. She was like a cosmetologist, and she toured around, and this was like my first time that I went and started being like, okay, I'm open to meeting other women, because other women, like, there have to be some other women that are not bitches be trippin' status, right? Anyway.
There are.
So I met with this woman.
It's just that people make terrible
Met
choices.
up, and she's a cosmetologist, and she goes to like some famous cosmetologist meeting shit or whatever. And
What was her name?
Green eyeshadow chick.
Okay.
All right. So she shows up, and she looks fucking on point and amazing, and she's just like hot as hell. And I dressed to the nines in my Joan Jett cut up t-shirt and my what would he call it? Fishnets, stockings, and my leather skirt at a fucking Starbucks of all things. And we had this conversation, and we ended up talking and talking and talking, and we were supposed to meet up again. And you know what? She ghosted my ass.
Damn.
Because like, I keep it real, and I'm not afraid to be real about shit and not hide shit from my husband or my other partners. And, you know, that's the whole entire thing right there. You have to be at this whole next level of honesty and self-awareness, and not a lot of people are really at that point.
Right. Again, we talked about this in a previous episode of how when you're poly, you come into a date or something at another level to begin with. Mm-hmm. Because if you come in at a regular Monaga level, you're already behind the bar if you're poly.
Right.
So,
because we got shit to talk about.
Right. And so
if we've been poly for any amount of time whatsoever, we pretty well have a good ground layer of how we expect and want things to go.
So if you come in at that level of non-poly, at a Monaga level, then you're already behind the bar.
Unless you have a really good group of supportive friends, which in my case, that was how it was for me. I had a lot of people. Not you.
Oh, damn.
Not you. I love
But
you,
me.
but no. Yeah, totally you.
Yay! Jay for the win.
Whoops. No, but if you do have that good support system, you have people that in your life that have been poly for years and years, it's nice to have that good support system, and to even reach out and see if there's any like local poly groups that can offer assistance and offer some kind of guideline for you to follow. And that's really kind of what I did with my one poly relationship. Was I was like, hey Jay, how do you do this? Like, how do you make it work? Like, I'm scared, you know, I've never really felt like this before. I didn't even know that you could love more than one person, and then here it is, and you're like, I have no idea what to do with this. Like, what do I do with these feelings? What do I tell my husband? You know, things like that. But whenever you have those people to be like, hey, you know, I was in that situation before, for. Here, let me help. This is what you can do. And for the most part, if you're not with bitches be trippin'.
And that bitch be cray-cray.
That bitch would cray-cray.
Yeah.
Then it works fine.
Again, mic drop moment from Jesus and Jay.
Yeah. We keep it real.
Yeah. Well, folks, we have loved this. We have drunk our way through this. None of us are feeling any pain at this point. So we're going to have to wrap this up.
Feeling much of anything?
You are
Wrap
only...
it up. Keep it safe.
You are
Keep
only
away
not...
from the corrovid.
Corrovid.